Wednesdays at noon. Dazed and Samboni. Science. Sammy, how you doing, brother? Good to see you, man.
I'm doing great. This looks fantastic, Cyrus. I got to give you full flowers here on making this happen. The arts and crafts department has been busy, and I'm loving it, man. I love the color. There's really nothing about this I don't like.
Good.
Gold, silver, black, all of it. The names.
I tried to get the King's colors. That was the
great. That's definitely King's related. The gold is beautiful for golden days. I mean, like there's just you hit all the marks. I mean, that's just the checklist is complete.
Beautiful. And just like you, brother, you're perfect. Sam Betesh. You can follow him on Twitter at Sammy Betesh. You can follow him on Instagram and Threads at Sam Betesh. And on today's show, we're going to touch on the Warriors briefly because their 14th roster position might be settled when Stephen Curry's doing a recruiting job with GP2 on board. Something tells me maybe that's settled. We'll find out. Then again, why is Stephen Curry's brother Seth not locked in? That's always the weird part. Sam, does that make sense to you that Seth Curry only got 1 year basically with the Warriors?
I wish I could have seen more of that. I love the family dynamic of both the GP story and the Curry story. Yeah. Right. The Curry's being the Dell, Steph, Seth thing. I want to see that all day. Not to mention Steph's wife is interesting. The mother, right? Like all of the Curry that we can get there, like more even than I like it within Indian food. I really like it here in the NBA. I would have taken the brothers running together, especially because they're both relevant, right? It's not like usually I'm not suggesting that Seth is at that level of Steph, but Seth makes an impact. I'm not going to say he's irrelevant in the league. This is not, and Bronny may one day, but this is not Bronny and LeBron on the court at the same time where it's so odd. Like absolutely rotationally, Seth is nice there. And if you're going to spend time in this league, I'm thrilled that they at least got the time that they did, but I could have seen more of that. And I will tease and get to, I've got a little bit of a GP2 connection. I'll tell you the full, my history with GP2 is I love it.
Well, all right. And just adding some even more just context on Seth Curry in terms of, you brought up Bronny, like Seth, a former Duke product, will go down in history as one of the greatest three-point shooters ever. Unfortunately, this past season, he was riddled with injuries, more specifically an injury that none of us had ever even heard or touched on until this past season when LeBron James suddenly missed like a third of the year because of a sciatic nerve issue. Seth Curry also missed. I think I'm well over half the season because of his sciatic nerve issue.
Well, it used to be something that you only hear from an older Jewish grandparent. My sciatica, right? I mean, that's all you hear. Yeah, my sciatica is acting up. I mean, I think the Jerky Boys did a bit about this as Saul Rosenberg. I swear to God. I mean, sciatica, you just do not hear. My shoes and my glasses. So I have my sciatica. I can't get down.
So I have them.
Sciatica. Oh, it's awful, my sciatica. So you don't hear this. And then when LeBron said it, of course, all the jokes came out about him being old, but you're right. Sciatica is a very real condition, and you just haven't heard it in NBA circles before last season.
Because normally athletes, NBA players don't usually play into
Nobody
their 40s
wants to be
or close thereof. And Seth Curry, something tells me his career's over. Like last season, he had the sciatic issues. He's got the dad bod issue. It's like the dad bod is fully engulfed his body.
Yeah.
He's got a dad bod. He's got like soft, jiggly man boobs, and he's got a bit of a gut. It's over, I think, for Seth. But again, the part that's weird to me is Steph has so much cachet and pull with the Warriors. You'd think they just pay Seth regardless. Like dad bod or no dad bod, he's going to be at the end of the bench. Maybe he will be. Maybe the Warriors will fill all 15 spots with the 15th being.
And again,
Steph.
Cyrus, it would have been one thing. We talk so much about the what if of this offseason, right? So if this is a Giannis, right? If this is a Jaylen Brown, if this is a LeBron conversation and you're telling Seth, all right, we got to make room for these things. But since there isn't any of that, you would have thought, yes, exactly. You would have really thought, okay, you know what? We didn't do anything for you, Steph. We got none of the guys that would have made a serious impact here. We're going to let your brother hang on here, regardless. Just, we got you covered. No,
I like a Gravy 707 in our chat saying sciatica is the new plantar fasciitis. Sciatica is basically just, my neck, my back.
Oh, my neck, my back, my neck and my back. Oh.
It's just an old man injury. It is. It's things are falling apart. But anyways, Steph is on the recruitment trail. Sam, you're in LA where the drama is sky high. I was aiming for Ramona Shelburne to join us this week. I'm going to try for maybe next week or the week after because she broke the story. She's been like embedded In both teams, by the way. Like, she's covering both the Clippers and the Lakers to the T in terms of investigative journalism with the drama going on there. But Sam, you're going to provide some insights and added context on just a mess. It's family drama with the Lakers and their ownership. You're damn close friends with someone who is very closely connected to Jeannie.
In the circle. In the circle.
I mean, in the circle. Yes.
I'm technically adjacently in the circle because of this. But yes, that we have a dear friend, and I'll say his name. I mean, Aaron Larsoul is tied in with the Lakers. He very much is. He's in the Jeannie circle. He's in the Jay Moore circle. And I mean, just go to Instagram. I mean, their wedding, which had maybe 9 people at it, Aaron's one of them that's there. So, I mean, absolutely tied in. And I'll just say this for Ramona. Really, if you want to do a deep dive, Cyrus, I did this for us, right? I went through I had my notes section. I was like, I'll write a couple things down to remember some names. And all of a sudden, I've got a term paper that I've written for you and I, because I went and followed really all of Ramona's stories going back to 2017. I mean, this is the Jim and Jeannie split when Jim's running the front office. It goes back really to that. It goes back to Mike D'Antoni getting the job instead of Phil Jackson. There's so much right? I mean, that really was a key fissure in this whole thing. And
Phil was going to come back. You're right. I always think about that. How like last minute he got stiffed. It was
completely. He was right. He basically is calling them on a Sunday to say, all right, I'm trying to get my flights together so I can get from Chicago to LA. And they're like, oh yeah, about that. It turns out we did make the offer to D'Antoni. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? What? It was brutal. I mean, they basically offered him the job, then gave it to D'Antoni before he came back with his answer. And all he was doing was checking to make sure he was checking, I think, on his sciatica. Honestly, I think Phil was actually checking his sciatica at that time to make sure that he could travel with the team or whatever. And they gave it to D'Antoni. And that's when Jeannie and Phil were they were together. They were fianced at that point, I believe. Yeah. So this was brutal to put her in the middle of that. Yeah, that was awful.
That is weird. So Jay Moore and Phil Jackson, Eskimo brothers. That's not what we're talking about on the show today, though. I'm joking.
In a way,
maybe we will. But we're talking. That's what we do every Wednesday. Sam and I, we get together. It's Dazed and Samboni, and we even got an open. Let's fire.
Hey, I want to drive the Zamboni.
Oh, dude, I cannot believe how many songs, Sam, have been written about Zambonis. Incredible.
Good thing there has, Cyrus, just for this moment alone. I got to give credit to my friend Boris, who the minute he heard that I was going to be with the Kings for the entire season last year, he goes, all right, well, I guess I'm just calling you Samboni now. And at first I'm laughing, and then I go, you know what? That's going to find a way to stick. And everyone at ESPN LA immediately locked into it, and that was just it. And so I'm glad I've learned more about a Samboni over the last year of my life than I ever thought I would. But it's a fascinating tool in the world to have, and I'm thrilled that there are songs about it so that you and I can do this. But
incredible.
Signed Samboni, Dazed and Samboni here is a great addition here to Golden Days. Thanks for doing that for us.
And the Samboni Show, which is on YouTube as well. And we're powered by FanDuel. We're powered by Sunrun. And let's give FanDuel some love here for a second, because I touched on this yesterday, Sam, and I'd love to get your perspective, your opinion, basically, on the fact that opening night lines in the NBA are released. And 2 games that tie in directly to the show we do. First up, Warriors and Lakers. That line is out. The Lakers favored by 3.5. If you think the Warriors are going to win their opening night game, at crypto, the money line plus 142, the over under 236.5. I kind of like the over. I think it's going to be a high scoring affair. But Sam, any thoughts on the Lakers minus 3.5 opening night, which is going to take place in 2 months?
From a betting perspective, I always like actually thinking I can make money. So I like a money line Warriors bet there. I could just easily see a way. See a way. Here's why, Si. Here's why I like it. I can feel already the drama of the sale. LeBron has left, right? I just feel like from a storyline perspective in sports, to have the Lakers 0-1 with a lot, and no one's got the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals for this season as a prediction. So the fact that the Lakers would come out and lose to a quote lesser product in the Warriors, and we know that Steph could easily come out and have a special game shooting at crypto. And again, like we don't know what the chemistry is with Luka and Austin now without LeBron, right? This is the Walker Kessler thing. All of that is going to be so brand new. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have it figured out night one. Whereas the Warriors, as you've said many times, they're rolling out the same thing, right? I mean, better or worse, at least they've been practicing together. This team understands what they've got. There's cohesion there. So I can see the Warriors being ready.
And Steph is going to be fresh on opening night, right? Like old people, you want to bet on old athletes when they're fresh and it's early in the season, not April when their bodies are breaking down and they're completely exhausted. I love the rationale you're presenting there. I'm with you on the Warriors money line to bet on that. Love it. And Luka Doncic, I have zero faith in this guy as an athlete. Like he's dangerously close to entering James Harden territory. I've been teasing this for a while now. Harden, former MVP, he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. Doesn't play defense, though, largely a stats guy. And again, Luka's treading toward that territory.
And both have, because I would have said, well, Harden's, but they both been in the NBA Finals as well.
Yes.
So there's that, right? They both been in and lost an NBA Finals.
Yes.
Now, and you could argue really which one had a greater role. I mean, when Harden did it, that's OKC when he had KD and Westbrook, whereas Luka did it with Kyrie, and you would say maybe that was more of a tandem than a threesome with those. But really interesting. I mean, they both have been there. I guess it comes back to, a lot of people say this, they used to say it about Matt Stafford, that he was stat Padford, the guys that would just get good numbers and not then translate it into a championship. Of course, that's moved on from Stafford at this point, but Harden, we know, is a guy now that just collects statistics and is no longer someone that you would see as a chemistry guy. I could see Luka, though, is being put in a different position than Harden has been. It's been a while since a team is building around Harden only. It's been a long time. Right? We're talking like Houston Harden, right? I mean, this has been a while. Many stops in between, and it's not been about him. Whereas Luka right now, this Lakers team is about him. So I would say Luka's got a chance to prove you wrong in that.
Agreed.
Harden no longer
Strongly
does.
agreed. Yes.
Yeah.
Again, this is a pivotal moment, I think, in Luka's career. It's like, are you going to turn into a James Harden, or are you going to be one of these folks who develops a legacy of his own in terms of rings, titles? But until that happens, I hesitate trusting Luka. For all we know, and again, he's got an ex-fiance trying to take it back from him.
Yes. Well, remember, that's why he missed time last year, right? He went over. They thought it was like for the birth of the daughter, but then it turned out to be a little more dramatic than that. And if you want to have fun on AI, by the way, if you want to have fun on AI, as Cyrus and I have done clearly with all that we've done recently and my ridiculous artwork that you'll see somewhere. But if you want to have fun, put the beard. I love that comment. Get the beard. Get Harden's beard on Luka and put that on Cyrus's timeline, please, to remind everyone of Cyrus's take. That's a great one. I mean, that's hilarious. If you can get the Harden beard on Luka, yes.
Could you imagine if he grew one? But until that happens, I have trust issues with Luka. And like, for all we know, he's sneaking cheeseburgers behind when cameras aren't looking. He's chugging down lung darts, just puffing on cigs.
Oh, that's right. You know what? My nickname for him was Hookah Doncic.
Hookah Doncic.
Yeah.
He's just fucking down in lung darts.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me another, just a quick little beer there, cheeseburger, and then let's go play. We'll find out. What happens with Luka, and I imagine Laker fans right now are stressing balls. Their family dynamic as the ownership of the Lakers, it's basically up in smoke. There's drama there. We'll touch on that in just a minute. One more line real quick from FanDuel that I want to ask you about, because opening day and game lines are out now. Your Philadelphia 76ers, what a matchup opening night at Madison Square Garden to take on the New York Knicks. The Knicks, 5.5-point favorites. The money line for that, if you want to bet on the Sixers, speaking of money lines, plus 172. I love that. OU 233.5. Again, those lines courtesy of FanDuel. Sixers plus 5.5, money line plus 172. I like it. What are your thoughts?
I'm going the other way with you. I could see, again, the same way I see the disappointment of a new team coming together for the Lakers. Yeah. Same thing for the Sixers, right? The Sixers are overcoming more as far as what are we? Where does the ball go? I can just picture Stephen A. Smith talking about this is the issue, that right? Like, this is the issue this team's going to face all season. There's too many mouths to feed. Like, I feel like that's good drama coming out of night one where, oh my, here we are, LeBron, Jaylen Brown, Embiid. We don't know what we're going to have to do with Jaylen, to make this work and gel together the way it really needs to. So I could see a little of that, right? Like, this team needs to run through Maxey. No, it needs to run through, right? I feel like all of that. And the Knicks.
One ball.
Now, granted, look, I don't love banner nights for teams. I know that there's a lot of downgrade on a team's performance on banner night because you're showing up early. You've got a ceremony. You're getting rings, right? There's a lot of the dapping it up, and it doesn't matter about the court.
The hunger isn't there. Yeah.
But the Knicks are a more cohesive unit than the Sixers largely will be. So I like, for the same reason, if I'm going to tell you to take the Warriors for being a unit that understands each other more, I'm going to say the same thing for the Knicks because the Sixers are so undone from what they were.
One more wrinkle in that as well. LeBron James does not typically thrive on opening night. Just take that for 2 cents there.
It's great.
Opening night games with LeBron don't always result in victory. And I base that off memory because the Warriors and Lakers have played a lot of opening night games, and the Warriors oftentimes were victorious in those settings. And then they play again later in the season, and the Lakers suddenly have their number full steam.
Right.
We'll find out. But those are the lines courtesy of FanDuel. Today's episode also brought to you by, real quick, Sunrun here, proud sponsor. Sam, you're in the process of getting You're in the process of being a Sunrun powered Samboni / Golden Dazer. You encompass both. You're getting those panels. Do you sell this better than me, dude? Like, take away.
I just want to tell everyone this. Sunrun is clearly the company that's going to do it for you. The history of what has been with solar panels in this country and certainly in this state, hit the QR code right now, and here's why. Because Sunrun is taking all of the trauma that we've had from the years of collecting how this actually should work. Sunrun is doing the research to let you know how it's actually going to work at your house. This is not about selling the panels. This is about taking your usage, understanding exactly what you'll need, translating that into how many panels you'll need, or switches, by the way. I believe I heard even there's new terminology in this because I had it done a decade ago. Catastrophe. Sunrun comes in and says, no. Let's take what you currently have. Let's look at your usage. And now let's make it work for you. And let's wipe out that electricity bill. And remember this, everybody, your electricity bill 10 years ago, totally different than what it is today. Each year, ticking that up 10%, 12%, 14%. Guess what? Now it's making a difference. All of a sudden, your bill looks ridiculous. And why shouldn't we all be solar powered? Not only for our house, how about your cars as well? Electric cars, I totally believe in. For those of you who think, oh, what am I going to do? I only have 250 miles to go. You're not driving anywhere every day beyond 200 miles. Hit that QR code, hit Sunrun. They are going to hook it up. And you know this because it's not about just showing up at your doorstep and doing it. No. They want the research. They want your bill. They want your yearly usage. They want year-to-year comparisons. They want to check out what's actually happening in your house and how can we give you the perfect amount that you will need. And how do we do it so you don't have to take out a ton of money up front and put yourself in a hole for this. Sunrun's going to make it happen.
Incredible. A few other things to add to that, Sam. You sold it beautifully. And I think last week, Sam, you said it best. If you're a homeowner and or you're in a situation, you're renting your house where you pay the electricity bill, just call the company up, PG&E, Edison, whoever it is, and ask them to give you the figures of how much you've spent from 2018 on annually. Like, how much did you spend on your electricity bill in 2018, then 19, then 20? And what you're going to notice is two things. One, you spend a shitload of money for electricity when that cost could be drastically dwindled with Sunrun having panels on your roof so that all the electricity is coming from the sun where it's free. And two, you're also going to notice with looking at those annual bills, your bill going up. They just keep jacking those prices up arbitrarily, and you can prevent that. No more rate increases. We've got a promo right now where you get $500 in your pocket. If you know someone, and let's say you're not a homeowner, but you know someone who could and should have those panels on their roof, refer them. They get 500. You get 500. That's 1,000 total simply by clicking there. The link is the QR code on our screen. It's in the description, especially if you're listening to the podcast. Click on that link. No upfront cost. This is not a purchase. This is you just making a transition while putting money in your pocket, saving money monthly, reducing rate increases that these crooked electricity companies are doing to you, and be ethical with solar. Detach from the fossil fuel grid. Partner and become a Sunrun-powered, Samboni-powered Golden Dazer today. We want to start the show real quick, Sam, if you don't mind, talking Warriors here.
I like
because
this.
Stephen Curry... By the way, are you into the WNBA? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, but here's why. And if I didn't make it perfectly clear last week, here's what it is. So here's the difference between the NFL and the WNBA for me. So I'm interested in both. I'm interested in both of these products, the WNBA and the NFL, and for much different reasons, okay? And this is going to sound weird. I don't consider myself an NFL expert, but I'm damn close. And in certain rooms, I could be the guy, right? We all can go into a room full of men, especially when Levi's
with NFL.
What I'm talking about is
you
in a
are
room
an expert with NFL. I don't think you should. You're being humble there. I would strongly follow that up by saying you are an expert. Like I don't think there's anyone else covering the NFL who could just kind of put you in your place. You could hold your own against the best of them. I love that caveat.
I love that. I love you saying it, Cyrus. And so I'll take it for right now. And I've got the glasses on, the reading glasses are on, so I'll call myself an expert for this one. And here's what the difference is. The funny thing is you'd think an expert is very well read. And here's the difference between being a WNBA fan and being an NFL fan. To be an NFL fan, an NFL expert, an NFL analyst, someone who can carry themselves in a room talking about the NFL, you can actually just watch the games and you know everything that's going on. And the league is set up very well. Obviously, you could just take Sunday. You could take one day. Yeah, you'll miss Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football. But if you took one day and just watched all of it, you are basically an expert for that week without reading one thing, Cyrus. All you have to do is read the roster wire while you're setting your fantasy lineup. Sit down and watch all day Sunday. You're an expert. You don't have to read a thing. WNBA, here's how to enjoy the WNBA. Don't watch any of the games and just read 3 columns a week. If you follow the drama in the WNBA, if you follow the stars in the WNBA from a social media standpoint, if you read the columns about the drama that comes out day to day, not all of it's tied to Caitlin Clark and Sophie, and not all of it is Angel Reese, but a lot of it is. And if you just follow those storylines and those teams, the drama around them, it's very interesting. In fact, I would say it's fascinating, Cyrus.
It is.
It would be the equivalent of reading about the WWE and never actually watching the matches, because that's what could take you out of it, right? The storylines are great, but if you watch the WWE, you could tell yourself, well, this looks fake, or this doesn't look up to snuff with what I'm normally watching from an athletic prowess perspective. And that's the same with the WNBA. You know what fast-paced, great basketball has looked like your whole life. And when you go to the WNBA and you're comparing it to that, you're going to tell yourself the product is not up to that. And that's going to take you out of it. But if you read the storylines behind it, it's more interesting than any sport that I actually follow and watch. It's when I start to see missed layups or terrible plays out of timeouts that I'll pull my hair out and say, okay, I don't necessarily want to commit as much time to this. But from a reading perspective, Cyrus, this is better drama. These are better storylines that I can get with any other league that I follow. So there it is. Watch from the NFL and become an expert. Read from the WNBA and be an expert that way. That's my advice.
The fact that you're saying there are narratives to follow closely with interest in the WNBA, that means the product, I think, is doing well. I bring up the WNBA. And on that note, I want to bring up a second thing, self-serving. Scott Agnes, a beat reporter covering the Indiana Fever, he was in the news about a month ago because the Fever revoked his credential. That does not happen often, and it's become a very newsworthy thing. And there's, I guess there's a history there. Anyway, Scott's going to come on the show next week.
Awesome.
I'm bringing him on partly because I'm fascinated from a journalism perspective, the legality of an institution just telling someone, yeah, we're revoking your press access because we just feel like it, because we don't like your coverage. I think that's what they're ultimately coming down to. They think he's being too harsh on Caitlin. And I'm curious to know if he's going to sue him. I think you have a perfect standing there. Like, these are First Amendment rights. And if you take this to court, maybe you can start to actually establish precedent for what sports is. Because I don't think the sports industry, if they take this to court, wants to be known as an entertainment establishment. And because if that's the case, then they can do whatever they want, but then people can't take it seriously. It's like the WWE at that point. So we'll find out. It's going to be interesting. Scott Agnes is going to come on the show next week to talk about that. But the WNBA, you're absolutely right. It's riveting. It's entertaining. And here in the San Francisco Bay Area, the Golden State Valkyries made the playoffs. They're in the postseason. They're a team that is not necessarily star-driven, but they have a head coach I respect tremendously, Natalie Nicase. She gets it done. She's all about team orientation, selfless basketball, defense, a strong emphasis on that. And she gets the most out of her players. That's all you can ask for from a coach. They make the playoffs. Sophia Jones, side note, is going to be on this show soon, color commentator for the Portland Fire. The Valkyries in Portland, I think, are going to play each other 3 times at the end of this month and early September. So Sophia will be on the show to talk about it. I bring up the Valkyries and the WNBA, and we're going to revisit this topic later in the show because Stephen Curry was at the Valkyries game where they clinched a postseason berth the other day. And I'm going to show a few pictures here of Steph. And he wasn't alone. The kid in the background of this photo, if you're listening to the podcast, forgive me for making this a visual segment, but we'll try to describe things. That's Cannon Curry right behind Steph. Steph is wearing a Valkyries, a custom Stephen Curry jersey. They made one for him. Curry on the back, number 30 on it, and that's what's over his neck right there. But that's not why I'm showing this picture. So Steph was at the Valkyries game the other day. Cannon's with him. GP2 is with him. It goes to show that relationship is a huge reason why GP2 continues being re-signed to the Golden State Warriors. But and here's another picture of the crew celebrating. Who knows what happened here? But Cannon's an adorable kid, by the way. What, a year off from Levi?
Love
I'm guessing
that. Yeah, yes, exactly. Because Levi just is turning 5 in September. Yeah, absolutely.
Unbelievable. So beautiful kid. Again, Stephen Curry is winning in life, but it's this dude right here. I don't know if my mouse is showing on the screen right now.
I'm seeing it. Yep. Sorry, you're circling.
Dalen Terry, NBA player drafted in 2022. I believe he was selected 18th by the Chicago Bulls.
By the Bulls, yeah.
And he was at the game with GP2 and with Stephen Curry. Whether that's a coincidence or not, we're going to find out. I think it's a safe assumption that Dalen Terry is going to be invited to training camp. Here's another picture with GP2, Steph getting the recognition from the cameras, telling the audience what's up. I'm going to be leaving soon to go back to my billions of dollars. And then Dalen Terry is right behind him. And this begs the question, okay, is Steph recruiting this guy? Is Dalen Terry? And that's Steph with the jersey right there, the number 30. But this is the picture here primarily to focus on. Dalen Terry. Well, do you know anything about him? Because he played for Philly last year.
He did. Now, the interesting thing is in the timeline, he basically goes from the Knicks to the Sixers and kind of passes through for a couple of months and then gets waived. So there's not a ton. Now, he did play in the playoffs. He did play in 7 of their playoff games as well. So he was rotational. He is in there. If you look at his minutes and his points, there's not a tremendous contribution that he's got there. But this guy was a Pac-12 all-defensive player as well, Cyrus.
Yes.
So what I like about this from a Warriors perspective is defensively. I like this from that standpoint. So if Dalen is going to have defensive prowess, then this is something that's certainly worth considering and certainly worth pursuing. And I'll simply add, because his picture's up there, GP2 is a guy that I spent a lot of time with when he was at Oregon State. He actually used to come and hang out with us in the green room called the Avocado Room at the Fox Sports Studios here on the Fox lot. So the Fox movie lot, Gary Payton, his dad, used to be a part of Fox Sports Live with us.
GP2, okay.
So right. GP, right. So GP, when he was there, so Gary Payton, the original glove, was with us at FS1, part of Fox Sports Live. And when his son, he's telling us, he's like, my son's pretty good at, and we're sitting around watching. And I remember the first triple double that GP2 had when he was playing for Oregon State. And all of a sudden, a couple nights, GP2 would come down and visit his dad. And so we hung out a lot. And last season, actually, after the Warriors-Lakers game, I was going back to my car at LA Live. And there was GP2 going to his car. And I said, what's up? And he's like, oh, yeah, I remember you with my dad. But he's a great dude, GP2. And I love that GP2, you said it's because of the relationship with Steph. I love that he remains part of this team, GP2. I love the energy of the GP2. I'm sure you've got many opinions depending on the night with GP2.
Let me just say this right off the bat. I never take pleasure in any criticism of GP2.
Okay.
Anytime I talk about him and it's not in a positive light, I'm not doing it with glee. It actually hurts inside every time I do that. But I can't ignore the fact that he's 6'2". I can't ignore the fact that he's not a great offensive player. And Steph and Kerr gives him an obscene amount of minutes. Like he oftentimes prioritizes GP2 over young players who are bigger, more athletic, who probably could do more out there. But Kerr will because of using words like fit, he'll justify giving GP2 minutes. And again, I like him. I think, just like you said, he's a great guy, especially off the court. On the court, he was pivotal for the Warriors winning the championship in 2022. I was his number one ardent supporter in 2022. When Steve Kerr did not play Gary Payton II in game 1 of the NBA Finals, even though his dad was publicly saying he's healthy and ready, I thought that was a massive fail on Kerr's part, and it almost cost them the title. They thankfully overcame that 0-1 deficit in the NBA Finals, but GP2 was pivotal, massively important for that run. I don't think, and I say this with sincerity, I don't think the Warriors win the championship in 2022 without him. He was that important defensively for this team. But when we fast forward to 2026 and GP2 is getting minutes over better players simply because Steve Kerr likes him more or Stephen Curry likes him more, I take some issue with that, Sam. And again, it's not personal. I
no,
love
that's fine. I wanted to give you that space to say it because it's true. Mine is entirely personal. It's very little to do with the court. It's about GP2, the person who was great, and I got a chance to just know him very briefly while I was there on the Fox lot. And it was a lot of fun. It was fun to see somebody that none of us really were following in that way because obviously we were with Gary the Glove all the time.
Right.
But his son at that point was not prominent. This is I mean, we celebrated that he was going to Oregon State. You know, it was like here's the beginning of that career, and then to see it end up somewhere that you and I covered so well with the Warriors, and to be pivotal, like you said in that finals, was cool for me. But the arc of it in the day to day, you know much better than me. One other thing about GP, since it's on there, my favorite segment that we came up for Gary while he was with us at Fox Sports 1, Fox Sports Live was Glove Actually. That was my beautiful creation. Glove
and I remember
Actually,
Gary Payton being very a very prominent member of the Fox Sports TV
it was
broadcast.
awesome.
Because didn't you have a show where it was him, Andy Roddick? It was like a weird conglomeration.
It was Donovan McNabb, Gabe Kapler, Gary Payton, Carissa Thompson. It was really fun. Ephraim Salam. I mean, it was a really cool collection of people. We had so much fun doing that show. And Gary was such a great sport to do all kind of crazy ideas for us. And Gary, what a tremendous dude he is. Gary is outstanding.
One of one.
Just a funny guy, one of one. And really, frankly, pretty humble for who he is. I mean, to be a Hall of Famer who went toe to toe with Michael Jordan, you know, Gary could be a certain way, and he just wasn't. He just treated everyone really equally, and what a tremendous dude, and his son as well. And in regards to Dalen here, I'll simply say, there's two opinions I have, and it's tough to have these at the same time. So part of me says, I like the defensive prowess. I like the idea that you could add somebody who, from a team that knows they can't rely on Draymond to just roll it out. Draymond's not the defensive player of the year anymore, right? This isn't going to be like, it just runs. Our defense just runs through Draymond. You're going to need more there, and I like Dalen for that. The problem is, in an off season, which now has come down to this photograph being interesting, is terrifying. When you're going through Jaylen Brown, Giannis, and LeBron, and now it's come to Dalen Terry, that's where it gets a little frightening. It's a little bit of a horror movie that this now becomes the free agent marker for the Warriors for this offseason. If that's the only win on the marker, then that's going to be tough.
It could be tough. And again, we're going to find out that the Warriors essentially running it back. But I look, piggybacking off with the research you briefly did on Dalen Terry. And again, I didn't know he played in the postseason last year. His numbers, he played 7 games, only averaged 5.6 minutes per game. So he was an absolute role player, bench player, coming off the bench for just very specific spot minutes. But look, he did shoot 40% from 3, which is it's not nothing. And as a career 3-point shooter, he's had seasons where he's thrived. Last season, I don't know if there was one of them. But
I think last season was down, Cyrus. I think in doing some of this research, I believe the knock on him was that it started to slip, that he was sort of known as someone who could shoot the 3, but those numbers, I think, dipped last season.
His third year in the league with the Bulls, shot 35.6%. Last year, collectively with the Bulls and the Sixers, shot 36.4%. That's not bad.
Okay.
You absolutely can live with that. That's borderline good. And like you mentioned, defensively, he's a solid basketball player. First round pick, selected again, 18th.
Yeah.
In the 2022 draft. So I wouldn't hate it, is what I'm trying to say. Have you ever? I want to play a clip for you since we talked about Gary Payton. I've been playing this in a second. And Sam, this is the clip that, and again, this is Gary Payton's words. Let me switch my display here, or our display here. Here we go. GP2, this clip eloquently describes, Sam, why, in my opinion, I think the Warriors would be best served moving on from Steve Kerr. Maybe they should have moved on a couple of years ago. They're not going to, clearly, as long as Stephen Curry is there. And I'm done trying to make the case, but I'm also not going to absolve Kerr. But the way Gary Payton described his early experience with the Seattle Supersonics with K.C. Jones, the guy I routinely bring up anytime one of Steve Kerr's apologists will come to me and go, dude, 4 rings, bro, 4 rings. Well, K.C. Jones got 4 rings. And listen to Gary Payton describe the K.C. Jones experience with the Sonics to maybe get a better perspective for why Steve Kerr, in my mind, is not the right guy for a team that's trying to develop talent, right? Steve Kerr is a great game manager. When it comes to, maybe great's a strong word, but he's proven himself. But in terms of developing players, coaching them hands-on, I think there's a lot lacking there. And Gary Payton provides some perspective from his experience with Casey Jones early with the Seattle Supersonics. Here's Gary.
First 2 years, a little bit rough. And, the coach is Casey Jones.
Right.
Who is a great coach. Let's just put it out there. He won 11 out of 12 NBA championships, 8 as a player, 3 as a coach. But I guess you went, to the owner and said that you want a new coach?
No, what happened is that they were going to trade me. And then the ownership did this. They said, okay, we don't know why you and Sean are not getting better. So they pulled us in. And as you got to understand, Vlad, when you got a coach who has won 8 championships as a player and 3 as a coach, you ask why. The reason why is because the Boston Celtics had great teams. And he coached Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Danny Ainge, ML Carr, people like that who were already established. So you didn't have to have young players when the generation was changing in basketball, in NBA. You didn't have all the old school Magic Johnson, Kareem, all that stuff where you could just go and sit down and Magic would take over the game.
The ball,
Here, just got the ball.
Right.
You didn't have that. So we were fresh. And when we were fresh, he didn't know how to relate to that. You know what I'm saying? He was used to getting older guys, just giving the ball, and we didn't know how to play the game. So you had to teach us the game. And when you got to teach us the game, it's a different story. And he just didn't have that in us. And we just needed a new guidance. It was nothing against Casey Jones. It was just that we needed a coach that can guide us. And he wasn't that type of coach to guide us.
Right. And here comes George Karl.
All right, we'll stop it there. But Sam, what are your thoughts on that clip? I don't know if you've seen or heard that before, but
I love it.
You swap Casey with Kerr, and it's the same shit, just different era.
It's so true, and it's so fitting to hear him say that. I have a different perspective than you because, like I said, I sort of have a nice, appropriate distance from what the Warriors have done. Right? I didn't have to live it day to day in the trenches. And when I was living it day to day, it's right. When I was living it day to day, we're talking Donald Foyle, Bobby Sura, Antoine Jameson, Donyell Marshall, right? Like those are my day-to-day in the trenches with Rick Barry covering that team, right? Okay.
Antoine Jameson.
Right. Dave was the coach, Rick's good friend, right? Dave Callens. I mean, we're talking some really, some rough times, but then again, there were a lot of rough times for the Warriors. So back then it wasn't that surprising. Then the Warriors become the greatest and maybe the last dynasty we'll ever see in the NBA. And I get to enjoy it from that perspective. I love what Mark Jackson was doing. I love the moment that we relived with Rick where he says to everybody, watch out, Joe Lacob's going to turn this around. Don't worry about Monte Ellis. This team knows what it's doing. We're going to put the money in Steph Curry. Obviously, we know how that turns out, right? So from my perspective, it's all right. Mark Jackson changed the mold. And then Steve comes in and does something which I'll give credit for the Knicks, right? You take Thibodeau out and I think, what are you doing? Yeah. The only way that can get better is if you go to the NBA Finals. Not only do they do that, they win it with Mike Brown, of all people, back to maybe the Steve Kerr tree here. So I have this burned into my brain that it is about Steph, Clay, Draymond, and Steve Kerr. I'll give Iguodala some of that as well, right? Like to me,
you should get equal.
Yes.
But yeah.
So I'm stuck on that.
I know a lot of people are like that.
But I will say this much. I've also told you this. I love, not many people have a hill to absolutely just set a picnic on and die on. And you have done it, Cyrus, and it's not an easy one to go to, right? No. It's not like there's a ton of people who would say this. So for you to do this and point these things out, and for Gary Payton to come in and talk about the fact that, yes, great coaches oftentimes are given too much credit. And if there's a league where we can truly say, I mean, if you took the 4 major sports in America, which one does the coach play the least of a factor, right? Like, where are you? I mean, we all understand
NBA,
that.
I think NBA, maybe baseball.
Look, in the NFL, schematically, but baseball here's the thing. You might be right. And now a lot of front offices set the lineups, but here's what happens. Managers still get crushed for pitching changes in game, right? That's still, and I understand that's different now a little bit, but managers the reason Dave Roberts is largely the manager of the Dodgers even right now is because Mattingly was so crucified for the way he both in back-to-back seasons, he took Kershaw out too early in one, and then he left him in too long for another one. The Matt Adams home run with the Cardinals, which is one of the most devastating blasts in Dodgers history, along with my guy Matt Stairs with the Phillies. But those are moves where you've got managers, including even Grady Little has a scar with the Red Sox and with the Dodgers on that. But postseason moves by managers within a game, that makes a difference. I would say that's because you're still getting crucified for that. In the NBA, there's not even as many moments. And you'll even see in a timeout. Oftentimes you'll see in a timeout, the head coach isn't even coming up with what's on the whiteboard, right? I mean, come on, Cyrus. You and I've talked about how legendary the NBA bench is with the amount of like former players that are now on your coaching staff. So there's so many guys that can do that. The head coach doesn't even have to do that. So I would argue NBA is least, it's tough to say least important, but least of the four, I would just rank it fourth.
Let me add this as well. Our guy, Rick Barry, on this show, and we're long overdue. I should get Rick back on the show soon here. But and side note, in case you saw that picture with him with a walker, I immediately reached out. I'm like, dude, are you okay? Yes. I've never seen you with the walker. Turns out he's gonna have a procedure on his foot, and he said nothing to worry about. But it still concerned me a bit. But Rick on this show said the only power a head coach has is deciding who plays when. So, and that's where I really got critical with Steve Kerr. Another thing I want to add here as well, and I don't know if you've ever heard this context before, Sam. I had this guest on this show some months back. I think his name is Donald Haberson, but people know him more so as Awful Coaching. He's got a hilarious YouTube channel where all he does is yell at video footage of basketball in terms of poor coaching. Like, what are you doing here? This is not defense. Great. And so he comes on the show and he rips Kerr regularly, which is a huge reason why I booked him, because I was like, great, someone else who can kind of take the pressure off my back for an episode. But what surprised me from Awful Coaching's perspective is he has respect for zero head coaches. I thought at a bare minimum, like Eric Spoelstra would be someone that he'd have respect for. He goes, F Spo, Nepo baby? I'm like, Nepo baby. And it took me one Google search to realize he is a Nepo baby. And like his dad was like some longtime NBA guy who got him in as the video producer, and the rest is history. Amazing. And he has none, like zero respect for NBA coaches. And I'm coming around to him. I'm starting to realize, like, most NBA, like, to me, a good NBA coach doesn't mess it up. A good NBA coach comes in and does not make decisions that have people looking at him. You should just be out of the way. I think that's what a good NBA coach does. Just get out of the way. Don't make yourself a talking point. Play the right players. Shut the hell up. Answer your questions pre and post game, and just get out of the way. I think that is what a good NBA coach should do. Phil Jackson was brilliant at that. Like, Phil Jackson, to this day, I still have yet to hear a single critique of his rotations. Not one. So, that was what a good coach should do. Just don't leave us questioning your decisions. And I find myself questioning Kerr all the damn time these last 7+ years. Hell, 9 years going back. But we don't have to spend more time talking about Kerr.
I love that. But I understand, Cyrus. I always told you, I greatly appreciate what it is that you thought about Kerr, because so few people did. You know, the fact that it was just you are on that hill. And that was simply it, and I was okay with that. So for that, I'll and you will be remembered forever.
Not everyone is. By the way,
at all. I mean, nobody. I would say this much. More specifically, nobody is. Right. I mean, more specifically than that, I would say nobody is. But you're doing it, and
there are a few. But
exactly. But I mean, look, you've gone again. Yeah. By the way, I have it. There was a photo of me and GP, if you want it, but that was back in the day. Me and
hold on. Let me give me 1 second here. It gets screwy when I'm already sharing.
I know. No, you gotta like choose the select.
One second, let's fix that. Okay, now we got what you produced here. Here we go. Oh, wow.
That was that was us. But I mean, and that was even after we worked together really in 2013, 2014, 2015. This is when he came to visit Cowherd. He was on Colin's show actually, and came in while I was producing that, and so we got together again. But GP
one thing
and
that sticks out, Sam, you have no gray hairs in this picture.
Is this
8
amazing?
Years later, you got.
I left the date for a reason, right? I left the date so we could all really understand.
Is it the kid? I found every situation where people just suddenly get a shitload of grays on their head correlates with having a child. Fair?
It's pretty fair. I'll also say moving to Connecticut and then moving back. I think there's a little bit of that. Like there's an undue amount of stress in moving your life, and then of course again getting fianced, getting married, like all of those things. But then we can also say I'm wearing the glasses now, Cy. Also, and you see I don't have the glasses there.
Yeah, true.
I absolutely couldn't believe when someone told me that I couldn't see anymore, and it started with my wife Allie, who was telling me that I was reading.
She called you out.
She called me and she's like, you clearly can't read. You're holding this menu so far away. And I go in to get tested for the eyesight. And someone told me, yeah, you need 46ers. And I said, what are 46ers? And they say, well, guess what? In England, they called reading glasses 46ers because at 46, everyone loses their eyesight. So yes, there are markers within my life, but truly just getting a little bit older will do that. And the gray hair goes along with that. So, but I love the gray, the silver and gray. It goes with our Daze and Zamboni artwork,
The fact that you have a thick, full head of hair, which I'm envious of, that's all that matters, dude. The grays come with everybody.
It's gorgeous. And by the way, and GP looks just as good today as he did there. He is. No, Gary's a beautiful looking man. And I loved all of that. But it was awesome hanging out at the Fox lot as much as I did with him. And again, back when people didn't know, like GP2 didn't even mean anything back then, and he was really. I mean, he did. I mean, quite an impact in what was then, Oregon State, the Pac-12. I mean, he was a major player for them. It was cool to watch.
And that's a huge reason why I don't feel much guilt if I do criticize GP2 in 2025 or 2026 or whatever, because I was his biggest advocate for the Warriors signing him in 2021. I was his biggest advocate for him getting a big payday in 2022. I was his cheerleader, and he got the payday. But I got to keep it real here, man. And in 2026, well, I still value him. I just think there are better players that should be on the court than someone who's 6'2" and can't shoot the ball. He's not a good three-point shooter. He's just not a good offensive player in general. Doesn't mean I dislike the guy. Again, I take zero pleasure criticizing GP2 because of how important he was on that 2022 team.
And here's what's funny about the photo of the three of them at the game together. The funny thing about it being Steph and GP on this trail of recruiting him is, guess whose minutes he would probably take? Dalen, right? I mean, wouldn't Dalen be eating into some? I mean, positionally maybe not, but there's definitely some of like that's kind of interesting.
The funny part about Dalen is we're talking about that because it's August. We're talking about a guy who'd be the 14th player on the team. Dalen Terry, if he was on the Warriors, is not getting run. Like, he's going to be sitting at the end of the bench. This is more of a chemistry fit. Nugsy Bogues in her chat saying, Dalen Terry, not an NBA player. You guys are cooked. What are you smoking, Cy? I want some perp, some Gary Payton. Gary Payton has his own strain, man. You go to a dispensary in California, you're going to see Gary Payton's name and mug oftentimes on the packaging of blunts, joints, crystal purple nugs. It's incredible how successful he has become as a weed connoisseur. So that's what I'm smoking, Nugsy. And I'm not saying either that Dalen is going to be anything special. I'm just pointing it out that the Warriors have one, maybe two open roster positions. They have 13 players signed under contract. Maybe Dalen Terry is going to be number 14. Maybe Seth Curry is going to be number 15. Who the hell knows? Sam, you're in LA where there's a shitload of drama, dude. This Laker thing is insanity. Are we moving on? Are we good about Dalen Terry?
I look, as long as the chat is, I mean, let's make it perfectly clear. How many shows are committing to Dalen today, right? I mean, that's what's great. I mean, this is what's beautiful about YouTube, Cyrus, and podcasts, frankly, is that there is an audience out there that wants to know more about Dalen, and we're giving it, and we're one of one to be doing that. And so that's why we are delivering to this audience really what they want. And as I've said, it's an off season of, I wouldn't even see swings and misses. LeBron was a swing and miss, but the other two, I almost don't even remember the swing, right? It's not like there weren't a ton of, not for this. Giannis was more previous off seasons than this one. It wasn't a ton of Warriors Giannis for this off season. And the Jalen, and the Jalen thing took everybody by surprise, right? That was like not a ton of rumors with that. All of a sudden it was just like, wow, that happened. So that's really interesting. So really the fact that this is the storyline, it's all we have. We didn't have a lot of breadcrumbs this offseason, so Dalen makes sense. And I think it's okay for us to smoke the Dalen nug here and go with it.
And I want to add, by the way, Ronald McPaul in our chat saying LJ Cryer is a mini Jalen Brunson. Maybe that's a stretch, but I'm glad you brought LJ Cryer up because that's who I want the Warriors to side. And I don't know if you're familiar with him, Sam. He played at Houston 2 years ago, made it to the national championship game in March Madness, Final Four. And then the Warriors grabbed him as an unsigned or undrafted free agent, played in Santa Cruz last year. I am an LJ Cryer fan, and I hope he makes the team. Just again, super nuanced take on.
Still, but I remember him an attorney, of course. I remember him an attorney, and look, this team's not afraid to make a tourney star an absolute NBA superstar. So let's see if we can make that happen with LJ as well.
Absolutely.
So if you want to go Lakers here and transition this, Cyrus. So this story really, if you go back to last week, it's a fascinating story. And in fact, if you go back to November of 2025, it's a fascinating story. Lakers being sold from bust to anybody is interesting. And the fact that that trade goes down when it does to the Walter and the Guggenheim group, all of that, you're thinking, all right, $10 billion. This is interesting enough. The Lakers are sold, but who's going to say no to $10 billion? And congrats to Jeannie and the entire family for turning that around. But for less than a year later, for $2.5 billion to be put on top of this, to go from 10 to 12.5. We just brought up the Celtics a little bit with Jalen. The Celtics at $6 million. The Lakers to be now more than twice as much is fascinating enough. But the part that allows everybody in LA to breathe a sigh of relief on this whole thing was, before Monday, well, Jeannie's staying on. At least we're not like we're upending a lot, and we understand that over time ownership is going to make its changes. But your governor is still essentially Jeannie Buss. Now, you remember this maybe, and certainly Luka Doncic does, Cyrus. Remember that Mark Cuban stayed on and then got out. Remember, Mark Cuban was going to be around for longer than he was, and then he gets out, which obviously
these inherited governors don't last typically.
It definitely is something where all of a sudden the ownership comes in, and these guys own teams, and especially when you're when you're the new owner and you're thinking, all right, I want to get to things quicker. I think there's a little less urgency there. It's the person that's been there making all the decisions beforehand that now is not making every decision. That's probably thinking, you know what? I'm not long for this world, right? I used to do it my way. I used to do it. I was the only voice in the room that really mattered. And now I'm not. I can't imagine that goes well for Mark Cuban. And maybe in time it wouldn't have for Jeannie. But the story that's out right now tells you specifically Jeannie Buss and certainly her attorney Streisand. She wants to be in this position.
Yeah.
She wants to be this governor. She wants to remain this governor. She's 1 year into what was going to be 5 years. And now potentially her 5 siblings are taking that away from her. Now, Cyrus, how familiar are you? We talked about the Mike D'Antoni and the Phil Jackson piece of this, but how much of this Buss drama do you know? I mean, again, Ramona probably has like a beautiful mind set up in a room at her house with just the connective tissue between Jesse and Joey and Jim. There's a Janie and a Jeannie, by the way, here. I mean, if you go
there's a second sister. There's a second daughter. Yeah. I only learned that yesterday. I didn't know
there's also 2 different mothers here. So all of these, so the 6 kids are all with Jerry, but Joanne is the mother of the first 4, and then Joey and Jesse, who are really, I mean, if you look at them, you're like, wait, are these grandchildren? No. Jerry has 2 kids that look like grandchildren, right? I mean, they're younger than you and I. And that shouldn't be. So Joey and Jesse are now the new mother. They're not the Joanne mother. And what happened here is in 2017, we remember when Jim Buss was running, he really oversaw what could be considered some of the, maybe it is the worst stretch of Lakers basketball when you look at just playoff appearances.
And so, in drafting, right? Alonzo Ball with the number 2 pick.
Yes.
Julius Randle.
There's Julius, there's D'Angelo, there's Brandon Ingram, right?
Ingram with the number 2 pick. Like those were just swings and misses. And you're referring to Jeannie Buss's brother, who was the GM at the time.
He was running basketball operations, Cyrus. And in fact, it was set up by Jerry to have it this way, where initially he wanted Jim to be in the basketball side and he wanted Jeannie really on the business side. But if you look in the language of what Jerry left behind, he wanted Jeannie to have the most say in what was happening for this team moving forward. He had everybody involved at some percentage, but he wanted Jeannie ultimately.
Yeah.
Well, when Jeannie fired Jim in 2017, which was following what I just said, which was they Mike D'Antoni becomes the coach instead of what was then her fiance, Phil Jackson. And then Phil ends up going to New York, and now she's got this bi-coastal relationship. I mean, I imagine that fucked her life up a little bit, of course. But at the same time, she gave the phone number to Jim. Jim comes to her in the office and says, by the way, would you mind if I reach out to your fiance to be the head coach again? And Jeannie says, sure, here's his number. But you can imagine, we're not bringing Phil in for a workout here. We're not signing Phil Jackson to a 10-day contract. Like, we're talking to Phil Jackson about being the coach again.
Yes.
We're gauging his interest. This isn't about our interest. This is about him. We hope he's interested. And he was. And they give the job to Mike D'Antoni. Now, of course, go back and look at the history of that. In the annals of Lakers coaching, Mike D'Antonio is not a blip. Mike D'Antoni is a blip for Phoenix and a blip for Houston. He does not exist, right? When you're looking at where he was in his career, that Lakers chapter is for nobody.
Can I add some harsh critique to Mike D'Antoni? I think Mike D'Antoni damages the credibility of the Hall of Fame when it comes to coaches. Like, because he just got inducted. I don't agree with that. I don't think Mike D'Antoni should be a Hall of Fame head coach. But then again, the credibility of the Hall is
and here's why. Does he also get credit though? So he probably gets a lot of credit for what he did in Italy as well, right? Because it's like an internet, right? You're right. What I mean is there's a lot of, like he's those numbers apply when guys get into the Basketball Hall of Fame. That's why there's a lot. People say that there's the Basketball Hall of Fame is sort of like the least difficult. Not that being a Hall of Famer isn't amazing.
Next. I'll ask Rick about it again. He has strong opinions about that agree with you. Yes, and I agree with you too.
And so you're taking into account.
Correct. If you want your prestige intact, be more selective. Do not just welcome everybody. That is going to damage the credibility. Yeah. So
there you go. So D'Antoni did a lot in Italy with basketball, and then frankly, look, what he did with Phoenix was, I don't want to say the word revolution. It was different, right? It was the run and gun
and entertaining.
Yes, it was. Now those teams did not, right? Those teams sort of tapped out at a certain level. And I'm the last guy that says it's got to be a championship or it didn't count. I enjoy, like, if you take a team from one level to another, I think that deserves a lot of credit. But yes, those Suns teams ultimately, I'm sure Steve Nash enjoys Mike D'Antoni, but there's not a long list of guys, and nobody with the Lakers is remembering Mike D'Antoni. So that was brutal. So she fires her brother then, and remember, fires her brother and Mitch Kupchak. And of course, Mitch is tied to a lot of glory years. So that was a big move. And John Black, who you and I remember, John Black.
Of course.
Raymond Ritter had as good history with John Black as well. Yeah. So there's a lot of Warriors and Lakers ties there through John Black. But all of them are fired. And it was a massive move. And I got to say, at the time, Jeanie Buss deserves credit for that. Because if you look what happens shortly thereafter, Magic comes in as an advisor now. Then we get Rob Pelinka. LeBron James signs on, and the team wins a championship. Don't talk to me about bubble versus bullshit. Stop with that. Lakers hang a banner through LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Rob Pelinka, Magic Johnson, Jeanie Buss. They're tied to all of it. So that move deserves credit. Now, after that, after this first sale goes through, towards the end of last season, then guess who gets fired, Cyrus? So she's already fired her brother Jim, right? But how about this? Jesse, Joey, and Janie all get fired. So now she's basically fired all of her. And it goes, and again, it's like, are you tying it just to her? We've all been fired and wonder like who did it or who could have spoken. Look, does Jeanie have the power to maybe say it's not going to happen? We don't know specifically, but you can imagine that her siblings are looking at her like, okay, you still have a job. None of us do. Like, that's going to create emotion for everybody.
Just sorry to interrupt 1 second, but a very similar story, minus the multiple brothers. This was just one brother versus one sister. The Niners. Eddie DeBartolo gets into the riverboat gambling scheme. He gets suspended for a year. He gives the team to his sister to run it as a placeholder, not as a permanent owner. His sister decides, I'm going to keep it. You're out. Crazy shit. And I'm still bitter about that as a Niners fan. Continue on. I'm trying to say this is not an isolated instance.
It's not. And here's the thing. And there's not a lot of people. Look, I don't have to choose a side here. I have more history, at least being in a room with Jeanie Buss than any of the other buses. So
you're very close to this. The audience friendly reminder, this man right here is I'm not exaggerating. This is not hyperbolic. You are in the inner circle with Jeanie Buss. It's fascinating shit. That's why people should be just tuned in. Go ahead.
I'm adjacent to it, basically. Like, I have a dear, dear best friend who is really close to it. So the bottom line is, though, I'm going to give Jeanie credit where she gets a lot of heat for certain things, even just on the basketball side. You know, again, Pelinka's tied to a championship. Jeanie's tied to a championship. And I understand the team doesn't win at the same clip, but only Laker fans and Chiefs fans and Patriots fans and Warriors fans think that you can win 3 championships in a decade, and that's going to somehow happen again for multiple decades. Now, the Patriots turned it into 2 decades. How many teams are dynastic over 2 decades? Like,
there's a few. The Niners did it in the 80s and 90s. The Spurs did it in the 2000s and 2010s, and that's about it.
And I think the Montreal Canadiens did it in hockey.
If you're including hockey,
okay,
yeah,
right.
You can
but It does not happen, Cyrus. So let's
Not
get
regularly.
it out.
You're
And
right.
for Lakers fans to be jaded by, oh, well, this isn't as great as the period of basketball that happened with Magic Johnson and Kobe and Shaq. Like nothing ever will be. So take the championship with LeBron and know that it happened and appreciate it, and appreciate that you got more out of Anthony Davis than any other team ever did, bubble or not. Take that for what it's worth. That team was constructed in a way that was better than every other team that season, period. Forget it. It happened. So Jeannie gets that credit. Now, she made a ballsy move to get rid of her brother Jim. Then last year, though, she's a part of that. So all those brothers and sisters are now bitter. And what they've done is they've come together. Yeah. They've come together and they've said, you know what? We get to, as part of a tag-along clause, take part of this $2.5 extra billion on the valuation now. So we've already gone from $10 billion to $12.5 billion. We can cash out now, sell the extra 17.8% that we're holding on to, be done with this, and have the cash. And I would say the younger brothers, Joey and Jesse, they would have wanted to be on. If they still had jobs in the organization, they would want the 17.8%. They want to be part of running it. They love being tied to the Lakers, and they're at a point in their lives where they're going to inherit. The way that Jerry put it together, they were going to inherit it at the end of the day. It comes down to who's still alive, Cyrus. What happens is, as someone dies, Johnny being the oldest, if Johnny passes away, his stake in the team gets then divided amongst the remaining 5. So it automatically just gets dispersed amongst them. That's how Jerry wrote it together, because he wanted it to stay within the family. So Joey and Jesse are thinking this is going to be ours eventually, because again, there's a massive gap. There's a 20-year gap between these siblings. They want to be a part of it. But when they get fired, Cyrus, now that changes the math. Now they're thinking, you know what? Maybe we don't want to be a part of this anymore. Now you can talk to us about the 17.8%. And here's where the 17.8 comes into play. You have to maintain 15% of ownership to be a governor. So in order for Jeannie to be a governor at all, they have to maintain the 17.8. If they get rid of that, Jeannie is no longer governor. She's out. And I'm sure the bitter brothers and sister are thinking, here's the payback. Now here's the chance.
Oh, absolutely. Here, the questions I have, and again, you spelled that out beautifully, and there's been a lot of stories written about it now. A couple of questions I have, and I don't know if you can answer these. And side note in the chat, by the way, first things first, in regards to the chat, please keep hate speech out. Please keep politics out. A couple people were not banned. They were just given timeouts because they started bringing up like Gaza. Like what? Like we're not talking about Gaza here, okay? Like Stephen Curry is not tied to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So just lay off that topic, please. Again, I did not ban you folks. Just gave you a timeout to remind you, let's just keep it on topic here, right? This is not a politics show. On that note, going back to the questions that I have. One is, how soon do you think this is going to be settled on a litigious level? Because until it's settled, we don't know if Jeannie's going to keep that governor title or not. Like, when do you think this is going to get resolved in courts?
So there's 2 ways this can go. Okay, there's a document. So when the team, when Jeannie fired her brother Jim, and I'm forgetting the other brother that did it. It wasn't Jesse. It wasn't one of the younger ones, but maybe it was Jim and Johnny. They came then after Jeannie. They wanted to get Jeannie out then to vote her out. And instead, they settled out of court and they made a new document. And within that document in 2017, Cyrus, and this is what her lawyer is referencing today, the 2017 document said that Jeannie will ultimately be governor or have a say in ownership and in final decisions for the rest of her life. For the rest of her, the document says that she will be in position for as long as she wants for the rest of her life. Now, part of maintaining that is that all of them have to vote to keep her in that spot, but part of that is keeping the 15%, Cyrus. So what her lawyer is claiming is, if the 5 other siblings vote to take out the 17.8% that they have, that you are taking Jeannie out of having that position, and 2017 guarantees that she would have it. So you are now in contempt of that 2017 document. So the court is either going to decide, Cyrus, that the 5 siblings have the right to just say F that document, or they don't. So they could throw it out immediately and Jeannie could be out quickly. It could just be, you know what? The 5 have decided and it's over with. and we'll look into the language of that 2017 document, but you know what? That's it. Or that 2017 document goes to court now, and this could take a year or two because it's going to have to now go into court. And what's interesting about it is, I told you, Jeannie wanted those 5 years hanging on as governor. We've already had one of them, right? That last season was one. So we're talking about 4 more years here of her doing this. It could go to court for 3 of those, Cyrus. I mean, think about it. She could essentially have a nice run here while it's in the courts. I'm all for that. That's what I hope. If Jeannie wants to run it, I'm all for it. I would say that the way the Lakers are being run currently, I'm all for Jeannie being there. If that's what she wants, I'd like to see her there. So I don't want it thrown out. And based on the language and how this was put together, I would say she's got a damn good case. The documents are there. If you go into these stories right now, the document is right there. You can read everything that's in that 2017 document. To me, it looks very clear. The siblings are supposed to essentially protect Jeannie's ability to run the team. And if they get out of that document, they put it in Iger's hand to do whatever he wants. And Jeannie's no longer even allowed to be because they don't have the 15% that they would need for her to be a governor.
One conspiracy that's out there, if you don't mind elaborating or providing your 2 cents on, is that the Lakers brief owner, the man who essentially flipped the Lakers like he's flipping a house, Mark Walter, whatever his name is, that allegedly, and again, this is conspiracy shit, he's under investigation by the FBI.
That part is true, and that part is true.
And the conspiracy goes that again, one of the Kushners, who's related to Trump by marriage, is now owning the Lakers, and I think he's the one who actually footed most of the money for this. I never understand that, how like
Thrive Global is what he's a part of. Yeah, Thrive Global. Yep.
But Kushner is putting up most of the money. It's like, why isn't Kushner just telling Iger to go F himself and take over the whole thing? I don't understand that part, but whatever. So the conspiracy is that Walter essentially is going to get a pass from these federal investigations. And he's pocketing $2.5 billion because that's what he got in the flip. An owner for 9 months, and he's making $2.5 billion in this process.
That's a great return. Jesus.
Yes, incredible. And so, but Kushner gets the Lakers. The Trump family now has an NBA team, and Walter's going to get cleared of all this investigation. How real do you think this conspiracy?
So let's unpack a little of it. First of all, Josh and Jared are apparently not all that close. And from a business perspective, not that close. So Josh and Jared Kushner are the brothers. Jared is the one that is more tied to Trump than Josh is, right? Like through the marriage, it's actually Jared who has the connection to Trump, not Josh, but certainly in the family and certainly worth tying together. And I can understand why anyone takes an opportunity to tie a conspiracy to Donald Trump. I'm not saying that's impossible to draw that line. There is a line to be drawn if you're going into the room and connecting people. Like, this is part of the investigation, yes. But it's not even about, I wouldn't say as far as being just granted freedom from this. What about the fact that he may just need the money to get through this, right? There's also a part of, like, if you're trying to now pay back the taxes on these things.
So is that realistic that could be a scenario? Like Mark Walter just spent all his money and he actually was hurting?
It's not that he spent all of it, but imagine if the government is now saying, all right, you actually just owe this much on it, right? I mean, when you're dealing in billions, what you owe on billions could therefore be many, many millions, up to, let's say, $2.5 billion. The idea that he'd have the opportunity to make $2.5 billion if you owe that, well, that's a nice way to get out of debt then. And he already owned, there's many other ventures he's tied into, and he's still with the Dodgers. Now there's a rumor about whether or not this would mean something for the Dodgers. Everything the Dodgers have said is that this does not touch the Dodgers. This won't be about that. This involves the Lakers. It will not now touch the Dodgers. I'm going to say that I'm okay taking off the tinfoil hat and saying we're not going to hear a whole lot more about this. I don't expect the Dodgers to be sold now. I expect that Walter Guggenheim group to stay right there with Andrew Friedman. That's not going anywhere. And you've heard about this, right? Shohei has it in his contract that if Walter and Andrew Friedman are not with the team, he does not have to stay with the Dodgers. Part of his contract is that he is tied in. It's something called like an important person. There's like an important individual clause, and it's both Walter and Friedman that are tied into that.
Why is Ohtani that fixed on Walter?
It's his belief in the winning. And we got to say for this much, I mean, they are 2 for 2, right? I mean, the 2 World Series in his 2 seasons with, like, I'd be okay tying myself to those 2 guys if that's on my right. I mean, I'm an MVP. Yeah, it is. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. He's a 2-time MVP, a 2-time World Series champion. Like, good for him and good for them. And it looks like they're headed straight for the NLCS very least again. So I get it. I don't know that he would necessarily upend his entire life if this ended up happening, but that just tells me, all right, these three guys are tied together in a way that's not going anywhere. So forget about that conspiracy. I would say the Lakers thing is gone. The other part about why maybe that Josh would do it with Iger is maybe to take some of the scent off of this conspiracy theory, Cyrus, right? Like Iger gives this credibility beyond where anyone would say, who is this guy, right? Like Iger, everyone knows Iger from Disney/ESPN. So there's like a sports sigh of relief with this whole thing, right? Like, okay, Iger gets it. Iger's been part of major NBA rights negotiations for 2 decades now. So with Iger, there's all this credibility, right? He's a Clippers season ticket holder. I understand there's that fun in LA about people wondering how the Lakers are going to feel about having an Clippers fan.
Just in case you're unaware of this, and I'm guessing you are aware, but for folks who are not, Iger grew up a Knicks fan. I think he's from the East Coast.
Yes, he did.
And there's an interview some years back where he came out and said, I'm a Clippers fan because he relocated to the West Coast because I hate the Lakers. And now he owns the team.
It's a great quote.
My stomach would churn if I'm a Lakers fan hearing that.
And you can catch that anywhere. You can hear it. It is very interesting to hear him say that. And what he actually says, he doesn't exactly say hate Lakers, but he talks about the rivalry. He basically talks about like there was no way as a Knicks fan I could come to LA and then support the Lakers in that way. Well, he's going to be supporting the Lakers here, hopefully for more than 9 months here if it gets sold again for $15 billion. But I don't buy all the conspiracy theories other than the fact that, yes, you have to look into the fact that the government is after Walter for taxes. That is real. And having an opportunity to get out of it and gain $2.5 billion in 9 months, that's not bad.
Incredible.
Anyone's going to have to take a look at that.
Mark Walter is not the first NBA owner who had to sell his team because of tax issues. Warriors owner Chris Cohan, who I once spent a night in the owner's box with him. True story.
Awesome.
Perks of working in radio back then when radio had far more prestige and power than it does now. Its relevance was actually a thing back then. But Chris Cohan, even though like everyone hated him as an owner and for maybe good reason, had alcohol issues and his team was awful, but it was tax issues that ultimately forced him to sell the team. And it led to the Joe Lacob, Peter Guber era. Peter Guber, by the way, the silent owner of the Warriors. But every now and again, like once a year, I see a story from old days Hollywood, like 80s Hollywood, and you see Peter Guber just pop up. Like Peter Guber was involved in this. I will never let go of the fact that Peter Guber produced Batman, the Michael Keaton Batman. That movie does not exist without Peter Guber, or at least if it does exist, it would be like a different iteration at some point. So Peter Guber, owner of the Warriors, and Joe Lacob took it over from another person who had tax issues, Chris Cohan. So is this all people are talking about in LA right now, Sam?
Oh, absolutely. It's especially the bus thing. And here's what's interesting, because obviously with what Jerry built with Showtime and this team, the success this team had since leaving Minneapolis is unprecedented. And frankly, this team has gone through more losing over the last decade without Jerry than it did in any of the time in LA with Jerry. So there's a lot on that, but people still tie the bus name to what Jerry's success is still tied into this. I understand there's a lot of people that want to poke at what Jeannie has done, but as I said, I'm giving Jeannie credit for 2020. That's a real championship. Yeah. This was not a chapter that LeBron James would forget in his life. This is a championship season for LeBron that him and Clutch helped put together. But the fissure here is also interesting here with LeBron and Jeannie, because it was the Russell Westbrook addition that also untied a few things here. And a lot of people poke holes in that because after the championship, it's then Westbrook that the team commits to, which was apparently a LeBron, Anthony Davis clutch decision. And yes, Jeannie had to go along with it, but apparently after that, Jeannie and LeBron were a little bit at odds as well. So I wonder if there's something there, Cyrus, right? I mean, that tells me, okay, now people are poking at the Jeannie thing in regards to what happened after that, because a lot of people, including Dwight Howard, like to say that they would have won multiple championships after 2020 if they kept that team together. And there was also the Alex Caruso thing, Cyrus, to not commit to Alex Caruso, to then watch him win a championship with OKC. A lot of Laker fans can't get rid of that. But you got to say,
so that was a bad move.
But what about this? What about getting Luka Doncic? I mean, if you're going to spin from LeBron into something else, I mean, the fact that you get a guy Luka Doncic is not on the market. This isn't like people aren't talking. I mean, when that news came down on a Saturday night, Cyrus, we all thought it was bullshit. Nobody thought that was real. Nobody saw that coming. And again, another great Ramona Shelburne story. The Ramona Shelburne story about how Nico and Pelinka got together on that. And it was Pelinka's relationship with the then general manager of the Mavs that put that whole thing together. That is really a success story for the Lakers.
Big time.
They have they get to turn the page from LeBron to Luka. Who gets to do that? I mean, this is Montana to Steve Young. This has the potential to bring them another championship now, an entire new era outside of LeBron. Sure, LeBron might do something fun this year in Philadelphia, but if you're talking about the future of your organization to be with Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, I'll take that.
Yeah.
And I understand Walker Kessler might not be the answer this season, but they'll have plenty of seasons beyond this to take a look, and maybe it won't cost them as much in the future. So I think what Jeannie's done is great. And just, I want to say this. If you want a real shortcut to all of this, yes, you can read all the Ramona stories, or, and I have to do more of this, and it's a homework assignment for you also, Cyrus, because we're going to enjoy it. There's a tremendous documentary series through Hulu called Legacy. And it's not just, this is not a drama. It's a docudrama. It's got interviews with all of the Buss family, including Jerry. You get to hear the story firsthand from everything I just laid out, from what happened in 2017 through LeBron coming here and winning that championship. And it's interviews with the Buss family, and it ties into all of the drama that I just laid out. And you will not believe some of what happens. And Jerry set this thing up so that none of this would happen, Cyrus. If it goes down that there's a coup against Jeannie that gets the Buss family entirely out of the Lakers business,
which might happen,
I'll consider that sad. I don't like reading. I don't like that.
You're sharing, and Sam, you're sharing the sentiment, I think, of most Laker fans. Like, I think most Laker fans, like my boy, one of my closest friends from college, Jerry Perez, he joins me every once a week for NBA 101.
Yeah, I love Jerry with what you guys do.
Yeah, brother. He's a huge Laker fan, and you know, and he said on yesterday's show that, like, it's very, the Laker fan base is sad because the Buss family still represented a family business. And this is essentially a transition to another corporate entity that's going to take over the Lakers. And it's understandably depressing. It's
sad. It's sad. This is going from conglomerate, right? From a family to a conglomerate. We can't, like, how do we get behind that? We like when there's a face of ownership a little bit. Why? Even just for shows like this, that we get to poke fun, you know, that we get to poke at somebody as opposed to just a large entity. So I will say this. So Johnny Buss was quoted, and again, a lot of this credit to Ramona Shelburne. She did a lot of this over the course of 2017.
Well, Ramona Shelburne, just to add some context, was also one of the biggest reasons why the Steve Kerr criticism that comes from me, it's based off her reporting. Like, she did interviews with players in the locker room trying to understand, like in 2023, why, for example, Jonathan Kuminga wanted out, why Moses Moody wanted out, and her reporting revealed that all these role players had like, Kerr was not instilling confidence in them with the herky-jerky rotations. Like a young player will not build confidence if they don't know what their role is. And roles that were never established under the Steve Kerr era, ever, pretty much since 2022. And it was her reporting that exposed that. And then she came on the show and elaborated. She's fantastic. And we're going to bring her back.
She's the best. So I just want to say this. This is something that Johnny Buss, this is the oldest of the siblings. Johnny said guys, this. This is something he said. He said selling the team. And this is when they now, I also want to say this much. The sale to Walter last year, Jesse and Joey had brought through the story. This is a Baxter Holmes story. And a lot of people wonder if Baxter Holmes is more of maybe a mouthpiece potentially for the younger brothers, but the story does go through the timeline.
Interesting.
There apparently was that Jesse and Joey were actually interested in at least taking information about the team being sold. They were interested in at least taking offers or hearing about offers. And then eventually it was Jeannie, and they tried to convince Jeannie many times and she wasn't interested. And then she's the one who ultimately got the Walter connection that happened and brought it to them. Okay, now we are going to sell. And they were wondering, like, wait, we were the ones who wanted to do this. But this is the quote about selling or not. Johnny said, selling gave the family hope to something beyond money. The Buss siblings might only see each other at an occasional Lakers game or at Thanksgiving if they did it all. And when talk veered away from the Lakers, they could be jovial with one another. Laughter filling the room at gatherings. And his quote was, the Lakers were the tension point in the family. So you now know that at least amongst a couple of the siblings, they saw it as relief to get out of the business. They thought it was causing stress to be a part of it. They felt like maybe they could be a closer unit outside of it. For all of us, that's difficult to think, oh, them getting out of this is going to break up the family. But no, they feel like maybe the Lakers was the thing that was breaking up the family. I can't even imagine what Jerry is thinking through all this, because he set it up, him and his wife, with the trust set this thing up so beautiful to stay with the family, at the very least for Jeannie to be the last thread. And for it to go out like this, if it does, Cyrus, I would hate to see that, just because of exactly what Jerry said to you as well.
Yeah, he's figuratively rolling over in his grave, man. It's I agree with you. I don't think this is how he envisioned the Lakers post mortem. It's sad, but it's also a business, man. And look, Jeannie Buss has had her legacy. I think is set in stone. For a side note, Running Point on Netflix.
Oh,
if you want to know what the Buss family drama entails, just watch that show. It's not accurate, but I think it perfectly encompasses what's going on.
It's very good. And like I said, and that's one that's sort of done dramatically and fun and great. And then, like I said, there's the one, if you want the 10-part series on Hulu, you can hear all the voices I just referenced, every single one of them. I mean, Janie, a lot of people didn't even know there was a Janie and a Jeannie, but there is. I mean, we're talking
I just learned that yesterday. Yeah, I did.
Johnny, Jim, Jesse, Joey, Janie, Jeannie. Those are the 6. All right. So there's 6 siblings, and they are all represented in Legacy on Hulu. And that's where you can really start to understand what they are behind Dr. Buss, the mother Joanne. It's the trust, by the way, is in her name, the mother Joanne. And she's the mother of the first 4. She's not the mother of Joey and Jesse, but she's the mother of Johnny, Jeannie, Janie, and Jim.
The older 4.
Yes.
Is she still with us?
Yes. And so the trust,
interesting.
Yes.
Okay, so that's another wrinkle. Jesus.
Exactly. So it's all, it's really interesting. I mean, for those of you that think I don't talk to family members or whatnot, it's a fascinating one. And there's a quote in one of the stories, again, the Baxter Holmes piece from when the team sold last year. This story goes into a lot of this drama. There apparently was a phone call in 2019 this is the press conference, I believe, when this is the LeBron press conference. There was a quote from Pelinka, apparently was talking to Johnny Buss, and one of the younger Jesse or Joe, I think it was Jesse, called Jeannie and was asking like, hey, why would Johnny have been a part of like the conversation with Pelinka? Apparently Joanne and Jerry Buss had an agreement that Jerry would not have any children with anyone other than her. Okay. Apparently they had an agreement that he would not have kids other than with Joanne. And she had the first 4
show up,
but the 2 more showed up. And so there's definitely like a fissure. At least that's the story that's being presented, is that there's a fissure between the 4 and the 2.
Understandably.
Yes, exactly. So that, you think your family's complicated? Just trust me. Dive into this one.
I will still give me any scenario. I will take their issues.
Yes.
And the billions, multi-millions, whatever it is.
Well, I think the sale nets them. This is the one even from the $10 million one. I'm not even going with the 12.5. I believe the $10 million sale gave them each $500 million.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, these are such rich people problems, dude. And it is fascinating, but it's also, I don't give a shit.
No. And in the end, again, this is like one of the last stories that we're going to care about, like in regards to ownership and like feeling for the owner, this will be one of the last.
But I can understand. I do have some sympathy for Laker fans because, again, and especially as someone who grew up a Niner fan who kind of like Eddie D and Dr. Buss to me are 2 very similar individuals in terms of just understanding what LIVIN is, and B, understanding what a commitment to excellence and success is. And as evident by the fact that their teams were always good. They were always good. And it was largely because they gave a shit. They wanted their teams to win. The number of owners who are very apathetic about the team they own, it's astounding. It's a very high number. And those 2.
Well, it's interesting. And what it comes down to, Cyrus, is a lot of times it's what are you concentrating on? And for the Buss family, their legacy is on the Lakers, right? Like what they are ultimately successful for, whereas other people have made money elsewhere and come into this after the fact, and it's no longer about the team. I give Kroenke credit because he's spread across a lot of different things, including multiple sports entities, and still manages to win on this level. Wins it all with the Avalanche, wins it all with the Rams. Like, I mean, congratulations.
Nuggets.
The Nuggets as well. I mean, I think it's Arsenal.
The 4th team? It's who's the baseball team? They have a baseball team too, right?
I don't think it's Arsenal. It's Arsenal though, isn't it? It's Arsenal as well. Here, I'll get there you go. Exactly. So Kroenke's legendary in that way.
And G4M Inner Chat saying sympathy. It's like a little bit. I know the Lakers are a huge rival, but I really don't appreciate fan bases just being pawns in owners and their games. Like it's messed up. It's super messed up. I think like the Trailblazers. I really feel for them and this owner Dundon. Who knows what's going to happen there? I feel for Seahawks fans. They got a new owner in Kosla. Good luck with that. And he just won the Super Bowl. And
that's wild.
It's super wild. Yeah, like Paul Allen, who passed away a couple years ago. His wife was just on a trail of vindication, of just vengeance. Like, and I don't know what the Pacific Northwest did to her, but she clearly had an issue with them. Like, she clearly had sights set on payback, and I don't know what happened there. A couple of chat. Sorry, Sam. Did you want to add anything or
no? That's it. And I'm gonna write in about 15 minutes. I got to jump side, but I want to keep this up. But this is great. Yeah, we'll do great. I love this.
We always run out of time to talk about Sophie Cunningham. The good news.
That's all right. We're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen.
We'll talk about it soon. Sophie, Caitlin Clark, all the WNBA. A few things in the chat. Ezibio writes, the Warriors won 4 championships over 2 decades. Ezibio, I know you're a huge Warriors fan, but we were talking about actual time periods. So like the Niners were a dynasty from 80 to 98. 18 years. The Spurs were a dynasty from 99 to 2016, 2017, about 18 years. The Warriors were a dynasty from 2015 to about 2024, 2023, 8 years. Still impressive. Still impressive, but not the same. It's not 2 decades. But I appreciate your fandom. Danny Collins in the chat writes, if Phoenix had gotten Steph, who the general manager at that time, Steve Kerr, was locked in on, defense was still the real secret to light years. This is something that I've seen a few people bring up recently. Steve Kerr did not have a successful run as GM of the Phoenix Suns from 07 to 010. It was actually a borderline disaster.
Yeah.
And one narrative I've noticed out there, which side note is entirely created by Steve Kerr, is that Kerr wanted to draft Stephen Curry when he was the GM of the Suns. Of course they're going to say that. It doesn't mean it's true. That is revisionist history. Maybe it's true, but regardless, it didn't happen. And this is just strictly from Steve Kerr's perspective. Yeah, of course, if you were a GM at that time period and Stephen Curry was in the draft, you're going to say, I wanted him. Yeah, really? You think? If you were the GM of a 2007 draft, you're not going to say, I wanted LeBron James. Yeah, you think? But again, that's just some propaganda. Danny Collins also writing that Phil Jackson did not want the Laker job because LeBron had clearly eclipsed Kobe. I don't think this is true. LeBron was not with the Lakers yet.
No. This is we're talking 2012, I believe, is the D'Antoni era. This is well before that.
Yeah, this was way before that. And then last but not least, on a more lighthearted, jovial note, FaZe begins asking if the Sacramento Kings were going to trade for Stephen Curry, what would they give up? I still think you give up the farm. I still think if you're going to trade Stephen Curry, even at 38 going on 39, you're demanding a boatload of picks. You're like bare minimum 4 firsts. I don't think
considering how much does proximity play a factor here also, Cyrus, right? The interesting thing about Sacramento and Golden State, San Francisco is how close they are. And so from a fan base perspective and going to see him and packing the stadium for Steph, I mean, there's something of a farewell tour that Sacramento would make a lot of sense. He could sort of go there. I mean, it would not make them a clear-cut winner. Right. I mean, it would not. It largely set Sacramento way back. I mean, it would be 2 years of having this celebration of Steph. Mm-hmm. It's almost a condensed version of what maybe the Angels got with Pujols, and that's not even anywhere near right. I mean, so they didn't win with Pujols at all.
Was that the worst contract ever in baseball?
No, because they followed up with Josh Hamilton, which was a worse one. So yeah, that's why the Pujols. And if you look at some of the years, the decade that Pujols spent, Pujols was a 10-year contract, and actually, if you look up, he set a lot of milestones with the Angels, and most of his seasons, when you look at them statistically, they turned out by the end to look very good. Whatever the threshold for RBI and home runs were at that time, Pujols was really in line with league leaders. It's just that the team wasn't winning. However, the last playoff appearance that team made was Trout and Pujols 2014. They had the best regular season record in baseball, but they got swept by the Royals. I believe that was a Royals-Giants World Series for you. And one other thing I just wanted to mention.
Who's that?
Oh, Rendon. Anthony Rendon was, remember, he was the MVP World Series with the Nationals, and then the Angels signed him, and he was injured. It's by far, if you take it apart dollar for time spent on the field, the Rendon thing is the biggest piece of vomit that you've ever looked at from a contract standpoint. There's the ROI on that contract is worse than anything you could ever imagine. It's terrible. It has blown them up for the next decade. It's a catastrophe.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
do you support a salary cap in baseball before we go? And do you think it's going to happen?
I don't think it's going to happen. I have no problem with the Dodgers spending. I have no problem with baseball having a real team that you could root for or root against, Cyrus. That's what I like. See, I don't mind, much like the Yankees when you and I were really growing up and at a time when we were up there with the A's, those A's teams, the Jeremy Giambi, Sly Jeremy, those teams, no series up 2-0 on the Yankees and not closing it out, and when you look at what the A's had, in Zito and Mulder and Hudson and going up against, that was so fun because we knew the Yankees were spending what they were and we knew the A's weren't. And the idea that they could compete the way they did, and the Coliseum has never been more packed than it was for those series.
I was at those games, yeah.
We were at those games.
Yeah, we
were those Yankees and A's series. Think about it,
right.
Cyrus.
You're
When
right.
you talk about Mount Davis being sold out, right? I mean, so
they were such disappointing games. We had high expectations for the A's, and every time we just left all bummed and and we'd bring dates with us. And we're all like, and then we leave. We're just depressed, and you got that like 6 beer hangover kicking in. You're just like, it was a horrible experience in hindsight.
Brutal.
But,
and one other thing I just wanted to say, Joanne Buss is no longer with us. That was December 2019. In the story in 2017, when they're talking about the trust and how it all came together, Joanne was through her. The 2017 kicker came in at that point. So, yeah, she's no longer with us, but it is through her trust. And like I said, now it's why it gets left to whoever is alive. Of the siblings, the sixth now.
So there's 5 left.
So, no, there's still 6 left because Joanne's the mother. Remember, Joanne's the mother. So, so it is the 6. It is, I'll say them again, just Johnny, Jim, Jeannie, Janie, Jesse.
Oh, Joanne's
Joey.
the mother.
Joanne's the mother.
So she's not with us anymore. Okay, so you added a correction there. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought Joanne was the sister that.
But the trust was written through her. It was written through her name. Jerry wrote it through her name.
Okay, so now so even though it's under her name, she's no longer with us. So this is all the lawyers are the ones that are going to.
Like I said, this is why that document in 2017 is going to be the linchpin here.
And the question is whether or not that document is still valid because of the subsequent sales, right? Is
correct?
That
Correct. Because what the siblings are contending that now they've got a chance to tack on to this sale and cash out at the $12.5 billion versus the $10 billion, and for them, they're saying, yeah, we're going with that. We're going with that. And like I said, there's all the scars of what happened with the firing of multiple siblings here. It started with Jim, and then Jesse and Joey and Janie were all fired as well. And so, yeah, that sticks with all. They wanted to be part of the business. Jeannie's the last one. I like what
Ezebio writes here. Just stall this thing out.
Yes.
In 3 years, the Lakers are worth $24 billion. Renegotiated that point. He might be onto something, man. I mean, is this appreciation of NBA of all sports franchises, I guess, but especially
it rises the tide for everyone? Yes.
Is it ever going to peak? Do you think there's ever going to be a moment where it finally reaches a point where it just stops appreciating?
Here's what I think
we haven't seen that stop ever.
Here's why, though, Cyrus. Here's why. Because of all the things in the world that are scripted, right? Sports is still the thing we have to wait for an outcome on. I just think that is still too fascinating to people, right? The fact that we don't know, the fact that it's not written, the fact that it can go either way, the fact that we think the Spurs are just the automatic champions and it goes to the Knicks, right? Like just all those things that still could happen.
Yeah.
That's why I think sports will still be fascinating because there are Browns fans.
I don't doubt that,
year
but I'm wondering, what is there ever going to be a ceiling for the value of a team? The Lakers a year ago were $10 billion. 9 months, a year later, $12.5 billion. 5 years from now is going to be $30 billion. I guess that's what I'm curious
because you'd
about.
have to ask yourself, okay, so I don't even want to say television rights, but just broadcast rights is what allows this, right? So even as television morphs, like you could tell yourself, well, the rights are going to go down because television is not as important. But no, people are watching it. Maybe they're not watching it through cable, but they're watching it. Someone will have it. And guess what? What does Levi want more than anything in the world? He wants a phone. Sorry, everyone wants to spend time watching something.
More than ice cream.
More than ice cream, he wants to watch something.
Oh,
he wants to watch something, and that's our society. We want to watch something unfold, and that's
the
what
phone thing
is
scary, dude. I read an article the other day that said Gen Z, no shots at Gen Z either, but that they're the first generation ever documented where their acumen has taken a dip from the previous generation. Like every generation we saw,
it's gotten smarter.
Whatever the measurements are for intelligence quotient, we saw these numbers go up. But with Gen Z, it went down. And they blame it mostly on the phone culture, on just, being addicted to the short time spans.
Makes sense.
It's a crazy world, man. Yeah. So
ridiculous.
You got a cute kid, by the way. We're done. Anything you want to add before we go?
I think that's it, Si. We will hit WNBA. We got on a little bit, but Sophie
Every
Cunningham
Wednesday,
makes a headline.
noon.
Yeah, so we're in on every Wednesday, and I can't thank you enough. It's a beautiful look for you and I. Dazed and Samboni, signed Samboni together again. And
thank you, brother.
Yeah, that's it, dude.
I'm so stoked we're doing this. I never envisioned. I mean, we talked about it some years back.
We did. But
to actually have this, for us to be doing this now, it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. How's are you still doing Niners shows with
I'm hanging out with Krug and with Damon. I'm on Mondays. I'm on with Krug and Damon in the morning at their 9 a.m. And then Damon, I hit up every Friday. We hang out. And tomorrow we're doing 11 a.m. But usually it's Friday at 11.
Beautiful. Tell them hello. They want nothing to do with the Warriors right now. So
that's fine right now. But they will. But they will. They will. And it'll be dramatic and interesting. Maybe. They will. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, nah, that product stinks. I'm gonna stay away from that.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's got a stench over it.
We'll see. We'll see.
Love you, brother. Are we done? We good?
Love you. Love you, Si.
Stream. All right. Bye-bye.
Done.